hope this chair isn't going to be annoying. Okay, better. Right, hello everyone. I promised this video a while ago and it's been something that I've been slightly putting off, if I'm honest. And I decided to kind of come to the realisation that it's actually quite selfish perspective. Just because I don't want to talk about uncomfortable things doesn't mean that like everyone else who's going through their struggles shouldn't have kind of access to the knowledge or the information that I've accumulated over the last few years going on this journey, this fertility journey. And I've had daily messages asking for this video, and I think that's so understandable because I of course know exactly how everyone who is on their own kind of fertility struggle journey is feeling, and I was exactly the same. I would, any kind of resources, videos of people's experiences, like I would be relying on those kind of things. So I wanted to stay true to my word and make this video about my fertility journey. I want to say a few disclaimers before this video starts. So I have all my notes on my phone. But I just wanted to say that obviously I'm not a doctor, and I'm very conscious that the advice that I'm giving is advice from someone who is not a professional in the field, has no experience working in any kind of fertility industry. This is just information that I've accumulated over the years and also my personal experiences. I also want to say that there are certain things that I'm going to touch on, but there are also certain things that I'm going to keep personal for James and I. This is a joint decision. There's two of us that went on this journey together, and I feel like talking about kind of personal medical information is one thing, I think, when you're just like talking to like your friends or whatever, but obviously being slightly in the public eye, I'm just very conscious about what kind of personal medical information I share. I will touch on certain things and tests that I've done and like research that I found really helpful, but there will be certain elements to my like fertility journey that I won't be sharing for just like personal preservation. I get out of breath so easily as well, by the way, guys. Just FYI, like I do get really out of breath. Okay, so firstly I just want to say that since announcing about my kind of struggles to getting pregnant, I've received so many amazing messages from so many people being so supportive and sweet, and it's been somewhat overwhelming. I've also received so many messages from so many women who are on their own struggles, their own journeys, who are still in the midst of it. And upon reflection, I think when you're in it, you feel like, actually that's not true. I know my journey isn't the hardest journey that anyone's ever gone through. And I think that has been something that James and I have said to each other throughout this whole time, is like, we've had to deal with this, this and this, but this person might have had to deal with this, or this person has had this many years or whatever. And, it's kind of tough to talk about my journey and the struggles whilst knowing that there are so many women who have had it so much worse or are having it so much worse. And I just want to kind of acknowledge that and know that I know that my journey is by no means the hardest out there or the most difficult. I think it was hard. And, at the end of the day, how hard really was it when I ended up with the result that, we both wanted, in that we are now expecting a baby. So I just wanted to say that. The last few years have been particularly hard for James and I. It's been like one thing after another, and I think it all started when we lost Digby, which was 3 years ago. And a lot of you will know that's my dog, and he was like my son. And you know, I have no qualms in saying that I loved him more than I love some of my human family members. Like, he was literally like my child. And we lost him without knowing why. We'll never know why. We did investigations, we'll never know what happened. We'll never have closure over that, and it's still something I struggle with even now. Even though I've come to terms with it, it's been an extremely painful experience that I've gone through in my life. And it seemed like after that happened, there was a lot of little things that happened in our life. Obviously, everyone has dealt with COVID over the last few years, and that's been something that everyone has had to contend with. And I know that everyone has struggled with COVID. And that was, you know, on top of everything else. A few other things happened in my personal life and in James's personal life that I'm not going to talk about, but related to our families, that was really hard to go through. And I then lost my cat, Leo, who a lot of you know, I rescued from Greece, who was also my child, and he was only 2 years old, and got run over literally right outside my door. So yeah, that was also really, really hard, and it was like they were so close together, the two losses. And also, some people might remember that we did lose a kitten a few years prior, so over the course of the 5 years we've had 3 losses of what we consider family members. So it's been really hard dealing with that, alongside dealing with like these fertility issues that we never saw coming. I just received a little kick. We have always been super careful with like not getting pregnant, which I think a lot of people who deal with fertility problems will also say they probably were exactly the same. But we were so cautious, so like, we want to live our lives, we want to, you know, have our relationship just us and be selfish and do whatever we want to do. You know, kids can wait. James and I have been together for nearly 9 years, so we could have really, you know, gone down this road at any point. But we really wanted to be careful, and we really wanted it to be something that when we did get pregnant, it would be like, we've done everything we ever wanted to do. We kind of lived our lives like almost in fear of getting pregnant, if I'm honest. Like, we were so cautious and so careful. We used fertility apps, we used condoms. I came off the pill years ago because I just wanted to be in tune with my body. What I'm trying to say is we were super careful, and we tried really hard to not get pregnant, basically. In hindsight, I kind of wish we hadn't done that, or I wish that we got like fertility testing much earlier. Or like, you know, I'd frozen my eggs, or we'd like made embryos together when we were young, because a lot of you will know your eggs are the best quality when you're younger, and they just kind of start to decline as you get older. We came around to trying to get pregnant, and we were really surprised it didn't happen really quickly. I also left out some information, so I wanted to say that when I got the COVID jab, I did notice that it messed up my cycle quite a lot. So I started getting spotting towards the end of my periods. Like after ovulation, I would spot until my period came, which is a sign of low progesterone. And I wasn't really concerned about it at the time. I know a lot of people mentioned that they had issues with their cycle. I then also got shingles a few months after I had a double dose of the COVID jab, which also messed up my cycle. It meant I had a lot longer cycles for a good few months. I had shingles really badly. I got it when I was on my honeymoon, of all places, and it took a while to diagnose what was actually wrong with me, so it attacked my nervous system. It was probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my life, having shingles, because it went on for so long without anyone knowing what it was, that it was just attacking my body. It was extremely painful, and it would keep me up at night. I physically could not sleep because of the pain. So yeah, there was that. And then I did notice that it affected my cycle quite significantly, and my periods, there was a lot longer, my cycles were a lot longer. They were like 35 days, and I normally have a 28-day cycle. To this day, I do wonder if the COVID jab affected my fertility. And I will always wonder that, and I don't know if I know the answer, but I do also know people that had the jab who were fine and had no problems getting pregnant. So a few months into us trying, I think it was probably about 4 or 5 months, I was getting concerned. I was like, you know, so I was kind of like, what's going on? I wanna, you know, I'm very much like on it with things, and I'm very like, I need to know everything. And I sort of thought, okay, let's get some fertility testing done. People around us were saying, you know, you need to chill, like you need to relax. There's no need to get fertility testing, it's just gonna put pressure on the situation. If you look online, it does say that it will take most couples at least a year on average to get pregnant. And then I think like majority of the people that don't get pregnant in the first year will get pregnant in the second year. So with that in mind, you kind of feel like at ease a little bit. You're like, well, okay, it does take most people a year, so whatever. A lot of people around me, like close friends, would get pregnant super quickly. So I think it's like you've got the statistics of, you know, what is normal for people, and then you've got like your friends, and you're kind of like torn between whether you should be worried or not. One of the first things we did was get a sperm test. That was really insightful and really important. And it's really easy to do. It's like you can just go to your local fertility clinic. We had one down the road. I think it's like 150 quid or something. And what you're looking for on a sperm test is you're looking for obviously volume of sperm, the motility of the sperm, which basically means is it moving, progressive motility, which basically means is it moving forward, because you can have sperm that's moving, but it's moving in circles, so it's not going to get anywhere. Morphology of the sperm is basically the shape and the size of the sperm, which just sounds like so confusing, but you'd be surprised, like there can be sperm out there that has 3 heads, that hasn't got a tail, tiny head, like massive head, like they're all just, you know, like the wrong shape, and they're not going to work for fertility. So you want to make sure that your sperm, or a good portion of your sperm, is shaped correctly. So that comes up as morphology on a form. They do say that a lot of these things can't be improved and all that kind of thing, but I think it can, with diet, nutrition, all those kind of things, like lifestyle changes. These kind of things can change it, and over-exercising is not great. Heat on your balls is not good for your sperm. Like, there's so many things that men have to be aware of for their sperm. And I do think it's really important that men get tested as well as women. It's like, I think it's like the cause of like 50% of reason why couples have these fertility issues. So that was one of the first things that we got checked. Another thing that we did was I went and got a baseline scan at our local fertility clinic. They will like scan you inside internally, internal scan. And this is where they check your womb lining, your womb shape, your follicle count, and there'll be a certain number of follicles that you should have depending on how old you are. And obviously you have 2 ovaries, well you may not have 2 ovaries, but if you have 2 ovaries, you have a number of follicles in each one. They'll count them and check that it's the right number for your age. Follicles are what basically grow. One follicle will grow every month, and that follicle will release an egg, which is when you ovulate. Obviously there are certain conditions like PCOS and things like that which can affect it, but if you don't have anything like that, you want to have, you know, the right amount of follicles. And if you have less follicles than you should have, that's also not a problem. There's this thing called AMH, which can be checked, which is, I want to say anti-Müllerian hormone. That's off the top of my head, but I'm not 100% sure what it stands for. And it's basically a really good indicator of how many eggs you actually have left as the years go by. So it will tell you how many eggs you have left. It won't tell you a number, but it will give you an average amount for your age. If it's low, which I know so many people have dealt with this, it's not the end of the world. It really isn't. You can actually, so long as you're ovulating and you're producing an egg every month, or you are able to produce eggs, or you have eggs left, you can get pregnant. So I don't want people to worry about AMH. I think a lot of pressure is put on AMH with fertility checks, and I think that it's unnecessary. I think it causes a lot of harm, a lot of stress, a lot of sadness, and actually it's not the end of the world if you've got a low AMH, that's what I'm trying to say. You also need to check for cysts and things like that, endometriosis. You need to check if you're ovulating every month, so you can do this at home. And a good sign of if you're ovulating is if you get like the egg white discharge around the time, like 14 days after your period. Is it 14 days? 12 to 14 days after your period, depending on how long your cycles are. And you can also get at-home ovulation tests, which can help you check for that. Sometimes though you can get false results with ovulation strips, so it is good to get that checked from a doctor as well if you're concerned. On another note, if you're not ovulating, there is medication that you can be given to encourage ovulation and to help you ovulate. Those are kind of the main tests that I would say. There are also other tests that you can get, but those are the main ones. And like I said, this is a joint effort for every couple. You know, no matter who you are, everyone should be getting tests. It shouldn't be like, oh, just the woman has to get tests or just the man has to get tests or anything. I just think it has to be like you both really delve deep into the testing if you're having problems. And unfortunately, a lot of the tests aren't available on the NHS unless you've been trying for a certain amount of time. If you do have the funds available to you and you wanted to get the testing done before you have to wait for the NHS thresholds, then I would recommend doing it personally, because I do think that knowledge is power, and what's the harm in finding out more information about your body? You know, these kind of things don't present themselves to us. Like, it could save you years of trying to get pregnant. FSH as well is another thing that they will test. If this is too high, it can affect your fertility, I think. And then also your thyroid is really important to check. Moving on from that, an STD test. If you have an underlying STD, this could be causing fertility problems for you. Okay. I want to say, is it toxoplasma or something like that, which is something that the NHS don't test for. It's basically like a antibacterial or bacterial infection that you can get. It's really common, and it is a really common cause of infertility. It's not an STD, although it can be passed on via sexual intercourse. It is actually also can be caused by bacteria. Then the next step, if everything's okay with all of that, would be, or was for me, to get a high COSI, which is basically where they test your fallopian tubes. Fallopian tubes are what help guide your eggs from your ovaries into your uterus. So you need your fallopian tubes to be clear in order for eggs to actually transfer safe and sound into your uterus. They're not very pleasant, I'm just gonna be honest. I did get one. They basically put liquid up your tubes, and when I was getting mine done, they were doing training that day, so they had quite a few people in the room, and I think it took them 3 times to actually get it right, and it is quite painful. I would recommend taking painkillers before you get it done. And it was just a very long and very embarrassing and just awkward process for me, but everything was fine, so that was good. But yeah, that is something that I would recommend getting tested. Another thing that women can have when they are experiencing miscarriages regularly or not able to get pregnant is a thing called natural killer cells, or too high level of natural killer cells. So everyone has natural killer cells in their body. This is what basically prevents us from getting diseases or illnesses, and we all have different levels. If your natural killer cells are too high, they could be rejecting your embryos when you are fertilizing eggs. Now, this is a theory that not a lot of doctors necessarily believe in, but it is a theory that I have seen to be proven. And basically, you'll need to see quite a specialist doctor if this is something that you want to get checked, or if this is something that you think you have. You can get tested for it. If it is something that you do test positive for, it could be the cause of why you're having multiple miscarriages or not able to get pregnant, and you can actually be given steroids to help reduce the natural killer cells or soften them. I'm not sure, but it basically helps for your body to accept an embryo, because a lot of the time when people are having miscarriages, it's because their body is rejecting the embryo. If all those things are all okay, then Other things that you can test for are, so sometimes when men don't have very good sperm, there can be something called sperm DNA fragmentation, which basically means the DNA inside the sperm is broken. And if that sperm was to fertilize an egg, that embryo probably wouldn't survive, it would probably fall apart, it just wouldn't make it. So sperm DNA fragmentation is a very niche test. I don't think it's very common. I think it's something that people get as like a last resort, and maybe a lot of people don't even know about it, but it could be the cause of why you're having miscarriages, chemical pregnancies, like it could be the cause of why you're not getting pregnant. So I do think that if you've done all the things that I've said, that could be a good one to test, but it is expensive. So this is something that you'd have to get on private healthcare. So if you have found that you have any issues with your sperm, with your egg quality, with your AMH, with anything like that, anything that seems on the surface like really negative, and you've been told, oh, you know, it's not very easy to improve this or whatever, this is what I would recommend that you do. So firstly, for anyone who is wanting to try and get pregnant, it takes, let me actually Google this. How long does it take? Between 3 to 6 months to improve the quality of your eggs or your sperm. If you are looking to get pregnant, then it's almost like you should preempt wanting to try, and you should start taking prenatals, and your partner should start taking, if they're male, they should start taking a prenatal as well, but it's like a fertility supplement for a man, which there are loads out there. So those are the kind of things that you should start taking like from the get-go. Lifestyle changes that I'd recommend would be not over-exercising. Some people might disagree with this, but I found this to be something that raised my cortisol levels, and cortisol is not very good for fertility. Some people might find that they deal with cortisol or over-exercising a lot better than others. Eating a healthy whole food diet, so less processed food, less sugar, more protein, natural protein. I focus on things like beans, legumes, tofu, grains, quinoa, you know, all that kind of thing. So making sure you're getting enough protein a day, and you can put your weight into something on Google which will tell you how much protein that you need each day. Whew, I'm out of breath. Vitamin D is really important. So if you live somewhere like the UK, you might not be getting enough natural vitamin D, so a vitamin D supplement is really important. I think fertility rates are actually a lot higher in countries that have better weather, basically, which is interesting. Vitamin D is like so important for fertility and for your health in general. Those are things that I would supplement, so prenatal, vitamin D, omega-3 is really important. Oh, another thing, I haven't written it down on here, but I've just remembered it. Something that's really good for egg quality and sperm quality is CoQ10. So CoQ10 enzyme. Is that the full name? Let me look. CoQ10. Coenzyme Q10. Basically, it comes up as CoQ10 if you just look at it on a supplement website or Amazon or whatever it may be that you want to use to get your supplements. And if you take 200 milligrams of CoQ10, if you take 3 200 milligram pills of CoQ10 a day, so one breakfast, lunch and dinner, this is for men and women, it can be seen or known to have a seriously good impact on your egg quality and your sperm quality over the course of 3 to 6 months. So you have to be really consistent with it, but it is one of the most, the best things that you can do for the quality of your eggs and your sperm. So I highly recommend doing that. I think I've pretty much talked about all the testing that I think you should get. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've forgotten. Obviously, reducing stress where possible is also really good because, like I said, cortisol is like one of the worst things for fertility. So if you can reduce stress, then great. But I don't want people to like freak out about that because there are people out there who are extremely stressed who have been known to get pregnant. So don't worry about that. I went through all my skincare on this app called Yuka, Yuka, and I tested all my skincare to see if it had any fertility harming chemicals in, and I removed any skincare that did. So I don't know if that made a difference, but it's just one of the things I tried. Another kind of coping mechanism for going through trying to conceive is meditation. I know it sounds ridiculous, but sometimes you can feel so down and so like in a never-ending pit of negativity. You just don't know how to feel happy, and it's hard because James and I have gone through this and alongside a lot of other things in our lives, and it's almost like we're coming out of that now. I don't want to touch wood, but like it's like we had this period of our life where it was thing after thing after thing, not only fertility related, and it could be hard at times for us to feel good and happy. And we did a lot of like affirmations every day. Like I would say on our walks, you know, we're so grateful for our dogs, we're so grateful for a roof over our head, we're so grateful for, you know, financial stability, like all these things, good family and friends, and we would talk about these things every single day. I'm so grateful for this, I'm so grateful for that, just to like remind ourselves of how lucky we are. Meditation really helped me. Exercise definitely, in terms of like yoga, walking, Pilates really helped me. James, I know, loved just throwing himself into exercise and still does. And I actually also hired a fertility coach towards the end of my journey. I think it was like probably for the last 5 months. I had a fertility coach who I'd see every 6 weeks. She did reflexology, which I found really calming, and she also did a lot of visualization. So she would like help you try and visualize what it was that you're trying to achieve, which when you're in it can feel a little bit like you almost kind of want to laugh, because you're like, this is just a bit, I don't know, I'm not very good at serious stuff like that, so I'd just be like, eh. But actually, if you just really like let the walls down, let the guard down, just kind of like let yourself fall into it properly, then you might find that actually the visualization is, I mean, I cried whenever I do the visualization, because I'd just be like, oh my god, this just seems like it's never going to happen for me. But I would just visualize, you know, us having a baby and me being pregnant, all these things, and it would just make me so emotional. I would just be like, oh my god, this is painful, like why am I doing this? But you have to be able to visualize it, because it helps with your positivity and it helps with your manifestation. All those kind of things are all like intertwined. You can go through this journey, and a lot of people have asked me, like, how did you feel when, you know, your sister got pregnant, or when your friends get pregnant? How did you feel? There was a time in my life when I felt like every few weeks someone was telling me they were pregnant, and it's the strangest feeling. I wouldn't feel jealousy, I wouldn't feel angry, I would feel so happy for those people. A lot of those people were people who had actually also been on their own struggles, and I'd be so like happy for them. But I think it would also shine a light on my own struggles for me personally, and it would make me feel even more alienated. It just seems like everywhere you go, everywhere you look, people have children. You're walking around and there's just people walking down the street with their kids, anyone, like any random stranger, and you just feel like, why is it happening for everyone else? Obviously it's not everyone else, because we know that, but why does it seem to be happening for all these people and it can't happen for me? And then there's that question mark of like, will it ever happen? That was the thing that I always struggled with, was not how long it takes, will it ever happen? And I know there are people out there who it doesn't ever happen for, and that's kind of why I created this video, because I just thought, if there's something that I've said here that maybe you've not ever thought of, or maybe something that you've never tried, then it might help you. How annoying that someone is doing work across the road. I hope that you can't hear that. But yeah, so just need to take a breath. I am basically so grateful for where I am today, and like pregnant with my son. Obviously I know that this journey could end tomorrow, it could end the next day. Like, I don't know how long this is going to last, or if we'll make it to the end or get to the point of having a baby in our arms. But I'm just enjoying every moment and just living for every day, because we've fought to get here and we are so grateful to be here, and I'm just choosing to love every moment, really. So yeah. And it's surreal. Still to this day, it is surreal. But it is the most amazing feeling, and I really hope that anyone out there who is struggling gets to experience it too. And I hope that this video has helped. I know that I've talked a million miles an hour throughout, but my camera keeps cutting out, and I'm like not good with cameras. I'm just gonna say it. I don't know how to use them, and it just keeps cutting out every like 5 minutes. So hopefully, oh, what's it saying there then? Is it overheating? Anyway, that brings me to the end of this video. I hope this has been helpful. Sorry if I've talked too fast. Yeah, I'm quite a fast talker. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've left out of this video. I will say that if you're seeing a specialist and you don't think they're working for you, or you've tried lots of different things with them and you know, nothing's worked or whatever, there is no harm in seeing someone else. I think I saw 4 different specialists across our journey. So to give people an idea, I was 30 when I started trying. I'm going to be 33 by the time I hopefully have this baby. And we saw 4 different specialists across that time. And yeah, if someone's not working for you, if their energy is off, if you've tried everything and it doesn't seem to be getting results, go and see someone else. You know, there's no harm in that. Obviously, I do totally understand that that is financial dependent. But even in the NHS, you can request to see other people. And with the NHS, we did try going down that route for fertility testing and stuff, but we found that they were super slow. And I was like on it with them. You know, every letter I get through for a recommendation or whatever, I would call up and I would be checking in for those appointments, because sometimes it felt like you'd get an appointment and it was 6 months' time, and you were like, okay, 6 months. I don't want to wait 6 months for this appointment. So you've got to just keep getting on to them and saying, you know, are there any cancellations? Can you book me in if there is one? Just be really thorough. But obviously we did end up going down the private route in the end, because we were able to, and because we felt like we were going to have a better experience. I don't want people to lose hope in the NHS, because I do still think and know there have been so many people who have had good results with them. That is the end of the video, and I'm super, super grateful, super happy. I'm going to keep sharing my journey along the way, and I hope that this has been helpful. Lots of love.